Thank you so much for coming tonight. You really are very important to us. And Anne and myself wanted to really share this 30-year journey that we've been on with you. You know, when it all started back there in 1984 in Pombara, when I was stranded there for 10 days, and more than 30 people were starving to death every day. Children were dying. There were those 320 orphans that had been found amongst the dead bodies of their parents. It was such a traumatic time for me, and yet it was a total life-changing time that actually was what started JAM. It's what actually put us on this road.
That's right.
On this journey.
Yeah, and I remember when you came home, I was just so happy that you were alive, not knowing what had happened, no communications, no way of connecting with you. Sometimes we forget what the situation was like 30 years ago.
No, that's true. And you know, we did whatever we could do. We collected money, we beat up on all our friends. We finally got together 80 tons of food, and we took 3 truckloads. And we had to go by military convoy because there was civil war in the country. But we finally got back to Pombara. And you know what? When we did the distribution, we only were able to give every person 1 ration just for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it seemed like so much. And yet, when you distributed it, it looked like nothing.
Yeah, it was discouraging.
Yeah.
You know, when I saw that, I realized, look, if we're going to have real impact on the poor, we're going to have to get people, friends all over the world, who will get on board with us and understand what we're trying to do and have a heart for the poor themselves. And I mean, that's really how it started. That was the strength of JAM, and it's always been the strength
and it is,
of JAM.
Yes, even to this day. It's through friends and partners who've chosen to take hands with us, carry the burden with us, and see the fulfillment of changing lives here in Africa.
And Peter, when I saw and Betty saw the love of God in your heart and in Anne's heart, it was transforming for us. It changed our lives. It changed our ministry.
And the work just began to grow in Mozambique. We started to work in different parts of Mozambique. I remember how thrilled we were when we were feeding 20,000 children a day. I mean, what a massive step that was, and what it had taken actually to get there. But just every month, every year, the program was growing.
I'm his son, PRETORIUS, Peter and Anne's youngest son, and you know, it's very interesting as we sort of look back. As I look back over the last 30 years, I'm 37 now, so that means, you know, from age 7 until today, you know, looking back, it's incredible. It's an incredible journey. It's a remarkable one with, you know, so many tears, so much pain, so much sacrifice, so much joy, so many laughs and smiles, and, you know, successes. You know, I think of Matthew, the story of that beautiful little boy whose life was literally saved from death's door. I remember opening his blanket and seeing the skin literally rotting off of this child's body because he was about to die from malnutrition, and then going back some months later and seeing, you know, a child whose life had been saved. A healthy, happy, chubby little boy who was running around and playing soccer with me. It really has been an amazing journey.
And then we went into Angola, and the president of Mozambique, President Chissano, opened the way for us into Angola. So we actually went in just 2 weeks after the war was over. I mean, it was so strange for South Africans to be in Angola.
And we didn't have lots of good news coming out of Angola. So once again, we were into a war zone. We were into a dangerous situation where people were in such desperate need. But what an honor, what a privilege it is to do so. I never used to think of it that way. It was such a hardship rather than a privilege. But today I look at it very differently.
We are very unusual that we own our own transport.
Yes.
You know, we have so many trucks in the field,
Massive
we have
fleet.
workshops, massive fleet. And we've, you know, in the war-torn countries, we had to operate aircraft.
That's right.
So, you
It was
know,
the only way we could do it.
I remember the Life Angel. It was a ex-military 5-ton. We could put 2 Land Rovers
That's right.
in the back of that and just fly it into any area, you know. And it's just been part of an intricate network of logistics that we've developed, with the warehouses, with the storage of food,
That's right.
with the transport of that food. This is actually where it starts.
That's right.
You know, this is where our development starts. Because we start with the school platform, we start with nutrition to the children. Then we begin to develop clean water and agriculture and all the other things that become part of our whole holistic approach.
Yes.
And then the genocide came,
Oh, yeah, in Rwanda.
1994.
Yeah, that was really tough.
We were working with orphans in Goma, and I mean, it was absolutely heartbreaking to see how many thousands of children that had no parents. There were no parents with them. They were unaccompanied. We went right from Goma to Kigali.
Yeah.
And Kigali was like a ghost city.
Yeah.
I mean, we drove around the whole city, and what we found was one person. And we asked them if they knew where there was an orphanage, and they directed us to get to Rama, and we found the orphanage, and we started to help Fred and Kunda with the children there, and that's how the Rwanda work began.
One great memory recall for me was sitting with the orphans, sitting on a little bench with an orphan between us and a translator, and asking them to tell us their stories, and hearing of the experiences that these children had gone through to run away, to hide in the forest, to try and... I remember asking the one child, but what did you eat? And they said, we couldn't make fire, we couldn't cook anything. So we would dig potatoes out of the ground, and we would eat them raw.
And what fun when we built the orphanage.
Oh yes, brick by
To see
brick.
those 800 children in the dining room, and just to hear the noise and the joy. This organization has been built on the bravery of our team and our team members, and the willingness to just sacrifice and just be there.
The vision of GEM and the leadership of Peter and Ann made us as a team to go beyond our social and cultural boundaries. As far as I can remember, we would all camp in a township back then known as Black Area, as well as traveling together and staying over at their house without any hesitation.
I think of, you know, the team in Pombara all those years, and the Civil War was still going.
That's right.
You know.
The same in Angola with the outbreak of the war when it came back again.
South Sudan.
Yeah.
Which at that time was just still Sudan. And I mean, we started to distribute food right in the middle of the war zone until we actually started the base at Goma. And I mean, that was in the middle of the war too. I remember our team on their way into Boma the one time, how in the middle of the night the rebels just hit them.
That's right, I'd forgotten
And I
that.
mean, they had to leave, they had to flee, and they left our vehicles. But then the Land Rover's alarm went off. And when they got back the next day with some of the army, the rebels had fled when the alarm went off, so all our stuff was still intact. I mean, it's amazing how God has protected us.
That's right. So
over
many
the years.
stories, so many wonderful testimonies. It's really been something awesome.
And then in 2001, we started with the exciting program of purchasing drilling rigs and beginning to drill for clean water.
I remember so clearly how you spoke of the burden you were carrying, that these women were spending such a high percentage of their time every day carrying cans, buckets, to carry water so that their family just had a supply of water for one day.
And the water that they collect is not even actually drinkable.
Yeah.
You know, and when I saw that, I mean, something inside me just wanted to be able to provide clean water for them.
Yeah.
And right now we have provided more than 2,600 wells with clean water. And I want to increase that. We now have 3 drilling rigs.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so exciting that we can provide clean water, and water is life. And around 2005, we started the work here in South Africa and started to do programs actually in the informal settlements, and not school feeding here in South Africa, but preschool.
If you can even call them preschools and creches, they really are little care centres where these heroes of our country are doing the most amazing work in taking care of the children, keeping them off the streets, giving them nutrition. And our entry point has just been so amazing that we've been able to bring transformation with those that have partnered with us in doing makeovers and transforming the little shack into a school.
And then last year, just getting to the point where for the whole year we fed more than 1 million children every single day. And how that was a vision for us, how it was written on our bus.
We called it our Million Child Challenge.
Exactly.
And you know what? We achieved that goal.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible to me. You and I were doing some sums the other day, and we worked out that in 30 years, we have served more than 1.2 billion meals.
JAM can give you a report that says we feed 1 million children a day in school, but I don't think we can begin to estimate the tens of millions of people whose lives have been impacted in the most incredible way because of JAM's as an organisation over the last 30 years and their service to the continent of Africa. And so to me, I think JAM has been overwhelmingly successful in impacting the continent, in setting an example, and I think in being an African organisation that we as Africans can truly be proud of. You know, JAM is a son of Africa, serving its own people, and I think that's something that they've been incredibly successful at doing, and something that we can all be proud of, whether we work for JAM or not, whether we're involved with JAM or not. I think that we all have to take our hats off to what's been achieved by Peter and by JAM as an organisation, and admit that they really have succeeded in doing an incredible job.
You know, and what's exciting for me is what's going to come in the future. I mean, the program we've now embarked in Mozambique, you know, the training farm, how we're training now local farmers.
Yeah.
We're starting to create an agricultural economy in the area. We've got a jam farm that's developing. We're going to produce our own food now, grow it, then produce the food through our factory in Beira in Mozambique. And that same food is going to be used in the school feeding, which is going to become totally a homegrown program. And is probably going to be the first of its kind with that whole cycle. I mean, how exciting is that?
And each step of the way, there's been hardship, there's been toughness, there have been burdens that we've carried, there have been mountains we've had to climb.
I remember carrying their photo with me to school every day because I was so afraid that I would forget what my mom and dad looked like. There were times when I would go into their cupboard and just my older brother Isak would find me standing in my mom's dresses and just smelling them, you know, and when they asked me why, I would just say because I'm just trying to remember mommy, you know, I'm just trying to feel mommy. And those things as a child are hard. Those are hard realities to deal with.
But there's been a level of excitement with every new program when we see the potential of what we're doing. And it's all been built on the taking hands, working together with our team. But it's been built on the sacrifice of many.
Yes, and actually it has culminated in Africa being helped, helping Africa
help
to help
itself.